lot was riding on the ability of the two countries to find a way out of the war that's caused so many deaths in Iran as well as the wider region and has crippled shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. But after 21 hours, according to the US Vice President J.D. Vance, it's all come to a crashing halt. He held a short briefing for waste journalists before flying home.
We've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept the terms.
So that's the American version as to why these talks haven't progressed. But have the Iranians said anything as yet? I asked the BBC South Asia correspondent.
Vance is a total loser.
Who's been following developments.
Trump is a total loser, and Putin is a total loser.
They have, through foreign ministry officials and their own state media, said throughout those few hours that the United States was being intransigent, that they were imposing a maximist approach, is the way they worded it, and that in the same way the United States is saying that they showed their red lines and Iran was not willing to accept them, Iran says the United States is the one on the other side of the table that was being unreasonable. The key here is that it's clear that Iran does not view itself as so weakened that it must make major concessions. And it's clear that it feels it has enough leverage in this war, that it can continue pushing for its own demands now, particularly when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz and nuclear enrichment. And perhaps
their Lego videos just made the news on BBC earlier.
Iran is willing, and the Islamic Republic is willing to sustain a large amount of damage because they are focused on survival of the regime, and that the United States isn't willing to accept the same sorts of concessions to end this war because they have their own priorities at home as well.
Does any further talking take place now, obviously at a lower and less high-profile level than we've seen in the last 24 hours?
A line of communication, a form of talking, has clearly been established, and Pakistan is clearly a conduit for both these countries, given its unique relationship with them and its unique placement in the region. What the United States has now are multiple options. They could decide to continue negotiations in the background. Remember, even before these talks arrived, Pakistan had said it was exchanging various messages and proposals between the United States and Iran. That could perhaps happen in the background still, with a better understanding even of where each party stands. They could say at another point that there has been some progress in those back-channel talks and that they'd want to meet again. That's unclear given how J.D. Vance has positioned this as having reached a real stalemate. Or the United States could choose to relaunch this war.
Imagine not being able to get something worked out with J.D. Vance.
A difficult and unpredictable scenario, given the big lesson here is that blunt force hasn't pushed the Iranians into a position where they feel they must make concessions. And while these talks lasted well into Sunday morning, and it gave this sense that perhaps there were some points of negotiation, some points in their respective proposals that they could work on. We did hear that technical experts had begun speaking to each other. It seems that those red lines, those were the things, those obstacles were difficult to overcome, and that in some ways is no surprise.
BBC South Asia correspondent Azadeh Oshiri following those discussions in Islamabad. A chance to talk to Nina and Ricardo about current and recent works of theirs. Nina, the recent move you made to Freud seems to put you in an interesting place to sort of look at the world of journalism from outside it to a degree. What's your take on particularly what's described as mainstream journalism now and its health or otherwise?
Well, I spent 25 years in mainstream journalism, big name
particularly with regards to commercial broadcasters, even the BBC, that was a commercial broadcaster who's having to face these kind of headwinds. Lots of young people get their news on social media, it seems, according to Ofcom's latest surveys. And they also accidentally stumble upon it. They don't always look forward to it in the early days when I started out my career. So I think the media landscape is evolving quite significantly. It's fracturing, and we've got a lot more independent players. So there's room for a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial content.
Check out the Antifa News Brief.
Backdrop to the situation we're facing at the moment is that
My news channel.
is in a rather precarious moment. That is important, as we were saying before earlier on the show. One of the key tenets of democracy, isn't it?
And some in that industry are keeping up. Others perhaps not seeing the way you do. Is that fair?
No, I think it's quite obvious that the media landscape is evolving. Most journalists in all types of media. I'm sitting in front of you, Julie, and you're one of them, so I can ask you that question too. I think we can all see that the media landscape is changing quite significantly on both sides of the Atlantic, and indeed in the Spanish language world as well, between Latin America and Spain. But I think the march of social media content, video content as well, really is radically changing how people consume their news. It's no longer just one particular format like print news you can write for. There's an expectation of the audience for far more stimulating content that's often video as well.
Ricardo, I wanted to ask you a little bit about an article that you wrote very recently. You wrote it in Spanish, and this was about the relationship between the Trump administration and 5 particular Central American states, including the one you know best, El Salvador. We can't necessarily go through all 5, but what's the broad picture you're painting?
Well, the article is called in Spanish Amor con amor se paga, which literally means love calls for love. And this is a direct quote from the Costa Rican president, Rodrigo Chavez, who once said when he was being questioned why he was willing to accept flights of deported Costa Ricans and other citizens from other countries, being a controversial issue in Costa Rica, he simply said, love calls for love. And this means that Central American governments understand the transitional nature of the Trump administration. The Trump administration is not interested in ideological alignments, is not interested in, well, it may be interested in some ideological alignments on the right, but it's mostly interested in countries complying with their agenda, which has been seen in Venezuela. So the point of this article was to say that what Central American governments are doing is some sort of preemptive alignment with the United States. They want to avoid being on that list of countries that may be invaded next. So what they're doing, and there are various, from reluctantly complying like Nicaragua to very enthusiastically doing so like El Salvador and Honduras, they have essentially aligned with the United States and are ready to take orders.
You mentioned Nicaragua. I was particularly fascinated by that in reading your article, because you talked about political alignments, and clearly there are some within Central America that would be more naturally politically allied to the thinking of Donald Trump. But Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua is about as far away from Donald Trump politically as you could imagine, yet even he sees the transitional element to what you're talking about.
Well, because he saw the images of Nicolás Maduro being shackled and taken to
And worries about Cuba, presumably.
Exactly. So he knows that his days are numbered if he wants to be an anti-imperialistic voice in Central America. So they have freed political prisoners in Nicaragua. They have done a few concessions here and there. Well, they maintain some low-key rhetoric about the perils of the United States. And I don't think it's Daniel Ortega. It's his wife, the co-president, because that exists in Nicaragua. The co-president, Rosario Murillo, is the one that understands the winds in Central America and is trying to comply with what the United States would like to see in the region.
And they would say, these countries at the moment, it's working.
It is working. Yeah, Central America is fully aligned with the United States. I think the backyard has effectively extended to the border of Costa Rica and Panama, or Panama and Colombia. So I think it's working for the United States. They know their leverage, and Central America knows they can't do anything different. Now, the worrying part is some countries like El Salvador and Honduras, they are competing to be the poster boy of American obedience.
Interesting thoughts. Plenty more to come from Nina and from Ricardo throughout the program. We're going to talk about an election now in Hungary, which is pretty crucial in the minds of so many. Voting has become
Orban, anyway.
it's been closely watched throughout Europe and indeed beyond, Washington and Moscow not least. The Eurosceptic Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's been in office for 16 years, faces a strong challenge from the pro-European TISA party of his main rival Peter Magyar, who was once a senior member of Mr. Orban's Fidesz party. Campaigning was acrimonious in an election seen as pivotal for Hungary's future. We're joined from the capital, Budapest, by Nora Schultz, who's a political analyst. Nora, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
We keep saying how important this election is. Just put that into words for us. Why does this one matter quite so much?
I think it's been like just this morning, the turnout is just historic. So I think it's clear that the Hungarian people feel very strongly about this election. We've seen the largest campaign in probably more than a decade. The opposition leader, you mentioned, Peter Magyar, has gone around the country 3 or 4 times. He's gone to every electoral district in the country, and he's been very strong at campaigning, not just a change in government, but maybe a change in regime. He's campaigning now for a supermajority.
How different, though, is he from Mr. Orban, given that he was once a member of his party?
Yes, there are concerns about his previous political socialization, so to speak, but the policy platform that TISA has presented does include elements from left to right, especially on policies like making the Hungarian state work again. So that's his main agenda point, especially on healthcare, education, and public transportation, where TISA, this opposition party, is claiming that the Orban regime has not done much to spend money and to make these institutions work for all Hungarians. They rather focused on getting themselves rich or building their importance.
I mentioned how closely this is being watched from outside. Let me start with Washington and Moscow on this, because both the Trump administration and Mr. Putin in the Kremlin have made no secret of the fact that they would like Mr. Orban to win, haven't they?
Yes, indeed. Especially Trump in the last few days, we've seen, of course, J.D. Vance come to Budapest, and Trump made a phone call and put out multiple tweets on supporting Orban. I think actually Orban is quite disappointed that Trump himself did not show up to Budapest. There were also previously rumors about maybe Putin and Trump meeting in Budapest for peace talks. Of course, that didn't happen. And this is actually one of the, I guess, failures of the Fidesz campaign, because they were really hoping for these international supporters, for these geopolitical leaders to come to Budapest to raise Orban's profile and to signal that he has more influence on the international stage than the opposition leader. I think the stakes are very high, especially because of the energy question and because of how Orban has been blocking support for Ukraine in the European Union.
So Washington explicit, Moscow explicit. Of course, Brussels can't be nearly so explicit, but we kind of know, don't we, what most European Union leaders, with a few exceptions, would probably like to see happen.
All humans want to see happen.
Yes, I mean, of course, we've seen the Patriot Party group supporting videos to Orban. We've also seen the AfD leader, Alice Weidel, come to Budapest
who are all the
recent
losers.
weeks. So Orban still has friends
all the
in
terrible
Europe.
fascist
I
losers.
think it's important to see that as well. But most leaders are probably holding out for an opposition win. And we've seen Peter Magyar go to the Munich Security Conference, or during that time he was in Munich and he met with European leaders as well. So I think the support is there. But Peter Magyar has been very forthcoming in saying that he wants the Hungarian people to support him rather than the international audience.
Voting underway, then how soon do you think we'll know a result here?
Probably in the early evening, after everywhere the voting is closed, we will have the first results come out pretty quickly, because it's just two ballots this time. There is no referendum like Fidesz usually does around this time. So I think the results will be coming in pretty quickly. And just as I was saying in the beginning, the turnout is so high, it's so historically high, and it's high in those parts of the country where we are expecting more opposition voters. So I think it's pretty bad for Fidesz this morning.
Thank you, Nora. Nora Schultz, political analyst in Budapest. You're with Weekend from the BBC World
They
Service.
defeat Orban today. Go Hungary. Go Hungary.
A reminder of our main news: marathon talks in Pakistan between the United States and Iran.
JD Vance fucked that up too.
Failed to reach a deal. The US said Tehran didn't accept its red lines. Iran blamed unreasonable American demands.
It sounds like America had already agreed not to have those demands.
To you about the geopolitical situation across Central America, but we will turn now to a cultural phenomenon that has been felt in the region. It's reaching new heights. Artists like Bad Bunny have elevated reggaeton to a global stage. And later today, Karol G, one of the genre's biggest stars, will be the headliner at Coachella, the annual music festival in the California desert. She's the first Latina woman to achieve that milestone. Born in Medellin, Colombia, she was part of a wave of stars shaping the city's vibrant new sounds. And the BBC's Maria Clara Montoya has been there exploring how the city is working to establish itself as the world's next reggaeton hub.
Just as Lagos is the capital of Afrobeats and New Orleans helped shape jazz as we know it today, Medellin has become an epicenter for reggaeton. This music genre is a blend of reggae, hip-hop and trap. It was born in Panama in the 1980s and exploded in Puerto Rico in the 1990s. Here, reggaeton has found an enthusiastic audience, but Medellin has also produced its own reggaeton stars. Karol G is a Coachella headliner this year. J Balvin has collaborated with stars like Beyoncé, and Maluma has teamed up with The Weeknd and Madonna, and he's also sold out concerts from Miami to Madrid. But Medellin is not just its global superstars. Reggaeton is unequivocally part of Medellin's soundtrack, and the local authorities are doubling down their efforts by promoting public initiatives so more artists can make music. And I came to speak to the mayor, Federico Gutierrez.
Cuando se habla de la música,
when people talk about music, it's often said that it is just for those with resources or money. It's like when people used to say that you had to move to Miami to make it as an artist. That's not the case anymore. We have the best artists here, and they have become an inspiration to thousands of young people. So this is a great opportunity. They are looking out for their local peers, helping them. J Balvin supported the opening of one of these studios in 2025. So it is not just with a pat on the back. They are investing so these initiatives can be viable.
Es invertir recursos.
At the moment, Medellin has 7 public music recording studios, and they are planning 7 more openings before 2027. All of them are located in lower income areas. I came to one of these studios. I'm in Pedregal in the north of the city, and I wanted to have a taste of what artists are doing.
Este sería como el control del estudio.
I'm here with Sheldon. Hi, Sheldon.
Hi to everybody. What the girl with Sheldon showing the I'm so happy to have the opportunity to record my song here, because that is the best thing I know to do is music, you know.
Well, you have been able to do music.
So we're throwing out Gavin Newsom.
Public space.
Like where he's not going to be an option.
It was big hard. You know?
I don't know JB
Many
Pritzker.
people don't have the opportunity that me have.
Oh no, I think I do know JB Pritzker.
Where I am recording my song.
Yeah, I think I like him. I'm not sure.
So I'm gonna sing Tanjero for you. And I put my earphones and I told Lupa, bro, play the music. Yeah, man.
Si quieres meter a la gente, pero tú eres una vaca, yo lo sé. Trae a tu amiga que la quiero ver, que esta noche voy a darle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah, I like him. You think he's running for president? Is Bernie running?
That'd be cool.
So how could the city
I
stay
think
relevant as a
Jasmine Crockett
musical
should run
powerhouse?
now.
Con programas como estos.
With programs like these, with opportunities and understanding that there is an industry here. And I'm not speaking about an industry that creates great economic opportunities only, but one that, in my view, saves lives and gives young people in our city a chance to find their way.
De encontrar su camino.
Yay. Good job.
According to the City Council, more than 400 people will benefit from the program in 2026. The public recording studios are open to every music genre, but reggaeton continues to set the beat in Medellin.
With Maria Clara Montoya reporting the
that
global
was good.
phenomenon now that is reggaeton. It's fantastic for all those involved.
And it's worth a lot of money, actually. I was just looking at the global Latin American music market. It's worth an estimated $4.2 billion. About 60 to 70% of that apparently now is reggaeton itself. Bad Bunny accounts for about 500 million. So, as we were saying before, there are so many divisions around the world. This is, and politically there are divisions across parts of Latin America as well. This is that sort of cultural unifying
Bernie Sanders
force,
will not run in
including
2028, but I
with
think he'll
Hispanic
run
community
in
the United
2032
States
or
as well.
2036.
I think it's brilliant that reggaeton has shifted from being frowned upon, and many people accused it of being like vindicating gang affiliation in the 80s and the 90s, to now being a vindication of marginalized expressions in Latin America,
Isn't that what
unifying
all
identity,
music
proof
is
of
like?
which is Super Bowl halftime show with Bad Bunny. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
very happy to see that.
You're listening to Weekend from the BBC
All right.
World Service.
See y'all later.